Welcome to another edition of the RF Video Shoot interview series. We are joined by a true legend in the sport of professional wrestling, none other than Corporal Kirchner, Leatherface. Thanks for being here today.
Hey, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
And you're actually alive, too.
First thing I want to get over after that good news from the WWE is I am not dead, I am alive, I am well. Corporal Kirchner is still with us here in 2007.
We'll talk all about that coming up. My very first question would be, were you a wrestling fan growing up?
I would say in my teenage years is when I really started getting into it and watching it and seeing what, pro wrestling was all about. Others, professional sports, you had to have a coach. You had to act a certain way. You look towards pro wrestling and you got to be flamboyant. You could be unique. You could be your own character. It wasn't really a team sport. It was an individual sport, and pretty much anything went. The more outrageous or unique you were, the better off you were. And I just started taking interest in it and said, hey, it's a pretty cool job.
Where'd you grow up at? What state?
I was born in Chicago, Illinois, and I lived there for 12 years, and my dad was in sales, so throughout my life, I've really moved around continuously since then.
Cool.
Various states. We went from Illinois, and then we went to Florida, and from Florida, went to New Jersey, and New Jersey to Minnesota, and Minnesota, and went back to Florida, and I stayed down there for 27 years, and then I moved to North Carolina, where I'm currently living now.
Did you go play any college sports? Did you go to college at all or anything like that?
I went to a community college, but no, never any collegiate sports, no.
Right. Was it always in the back of your head that one day you wanted to be a pro wrestler, or how did that come all about?
I started weight training when I was 19 years old, because most of my whole life I was, really skinny, and it's like, hey, I gotta get some size to me, and cocky and arrogant and had an attitude. It's like, I better start training. So I started training, getting big, bigger, from what I was. And by the time I was 19, I was about 197 pounds, good shape, and continued training till I was, throughout the years. But when I was 23 years old, I was in Minneapolis, and I had met Hulk Hogan in the gym. He had just come to the AWA. And like I said, I had been watching it on TV and then talking to him and seeing what he did. And it intrigued me and say, hey, something I really might want to start doing this and getting into this. So that's when I truly took an interest in it and started training for it.
What was Hogan like back then when you first met him?
He was a really cool guy. He was a good friend. He was doing the Japan thing. Come back from a flight, he'd give me a ring, hey, bro, back in town, and we'd hook up. We'd go out. He'd tell me about, life on the road and how things were going over in Japan. And he had just finished Rocky III. So it's right before the tidal wave hit.
Right.
Is when I knew him. But, his career was just skyrocketing then, and it was exciting to be around him and watch what was going on and how he was doing it. And then he was working for Vern. And, he was doing well there. He was doing very well there. But he said that he was talking to New York again because he had been with Vince Sr. working for him and left. And then he said, yeah, I started talking to Vince, Vinny Mac now, Vince. And I might be going up there. And I said, wow, that's way cool. And so I was training, and we went to the gym when he was in town. We were pumping iron, and he was, showing me things and telling me things, and it's just, man, I'd really like to do this. He never was discouraging, but he wasn't encouraging either. He said, bro, this your brother, like Hogan talks, this is a tough business. It's a hard business to get a break in, and even if you do get a break in it, you're not necessarily going to do well. There's a lot of traveling. There's a lot of, you get hurt. It's up to you, It's a time and a break. There's guys who try to make a career out of this their whole life and never do well, and there's guys who get a break and do fantastic. It's so that's how he was pretty much with me, talking to me. Then he set me up. I kept being persistent about it. And he said, well, you're going to have to get in great shape, do this, exercises and type of conditioning I would need to be in. And Brad Rangens was up there too. I'd been speaking with him. Rick Martel was up there, and they would tell me things that are going on. And Vern had his territory, and AWA was doing well at that time. And he said, well, you want to, I kept bugging him about it. Vern's got a camp up there in Minnesota. He says it's tough. Huh. So I said, okay. I trained for 3 months straight. I mean, conditioning and exercises, the push-ups, the free squats, the Japanese routine, I was in great shape. But there's a but. Huh. I went out to Vern's place for a tryout, and doing my Brad was there, Brad Rangens and Greg Gagne. They had another guy there who was training, who'd been there for a while, and then they had another college shooter there on there. So the first 2 hours, exercise. I mean, doing everything to physically wear you out. Okay, made it through that part about it. Then you had to start wrestling with Brad Rangens, who's an Olympic, close to a gold medalist. I mean, because they boycotted the Olympics with Russia that year. And then you had Greg Gagne, and then you had the new guy who was there who'd been training, and then you had the college shooter. So they take 3 minutes a piece, beating the hell out of you, stretching you, submission wrestling. I mean, after 2 hours of wrestling, then getting on the mat, it was, I was taking a pounding. And Vern came out and said something to him, and they just kept fighting with me. Not fighting, but, wrestling, until I was totally exhausted. My knees were buckling, my legs were gone. I was, just out of steam, which is what he told me. He said, run him into the mat because I really don't feel like training him. He's not what I'm looking for. So that was their way of making you quit.
Right.
And, I said, I had to tap out on that one. So, I can't take no more, legs are gone. I'm just going to get hurt. You break something or whatever. So I saw Brad, I don't know, probably a week later, and said, Mike, you did great. You did better than most guys. Vern just wasn't interested in you, right at that time. It wasn't anything you did. It was just, he's the boss. So I said, okay, I didn't get discouraged. I just encouraged, kept training, and then decided to go down to Florida, maybe start working some of the independents. Or I hooked up, I left Minnesota.
What year is this around?
1982.
Okay,
we're back about 82, and I went down to Florida and hooked up with some of the local wrestlers down there. There's a friend of mine, Rusty Brooks, who gave me a good start, and he had a ring in his backyard, and he trained other guys. So Ricky Santana was also there, another friend of mine who just passed, Jimmy Young, Joe Murdo, and myself. We trained down there every day religiously in the ring. We practicing, we watched videos, really got into it, and it was going well. You learn moves, correct, do it like this, and we helped each other rather than just beating the hell out of you trying to get rid of you. They taught you that, and you improved your techniques, and you'd watch the video cameras or something, you'd see how something looked, and I don't like this, or I do like this, or try something a different way, and work on your character, whatever your character was going to be. At that time, I had no idea what my character was going to be. We got to come up with some kind of name for you. So I said, okay, I just made up R.T. Reynolds.
Right.
So, like a pack of cigarettes, not that I smoke, but R.J. Reynolds, R.T. Reynolds, a jobber name.
Right. Well, I guess that when you were training, what was the hardest thing for you to pick up?
Andre the Giant. Which I never did. I did get Big John Studd off his feet one time.
Wow.
He's a man who never could, the true giant of professional wrestling, as he used to say.
Wow.
That was always a good gimmick. You'd pick him up, all right, take me up for the slam, and he'd get the rope,
Right.
like you're going to do it, and the fans would pop, and that was that was always pretty,
I guess
great humor.
would it be for your psychology and stuff like that? Was that one of the first things that you had to pick up? I mean, were you ever discouraged?
Actually, no. How my career started, okay, we'll go back to that, was I did the Florida routine. We were working the independents. We were, doing. Vince McMahon started doing the WWF. Hogan had left the AWA and went there, and Hulkamania was born and running wild. Vinny was running TV up in Canada. He was doing Poughkeepsie. So they needed guys to work. Back in the old days, grab my arm, I'm going to kick you in the stomach, we're going to beat the hell out of you for 3 minutes, and you go home. They needed bodies. So another friend of mine who had worked doing, jobs and stuff for Vince Sr. back in the day, named Joe Mascaro. He gave Rusty a call, and he says, hey, they're starting to do TV up in New York, and they need guys to do. You got anybody who you think is good enough to, to go up there? Rusty said, yeah, I got a good crew right here. These guys are really working and training hard. He said, well, come over and, give them a look. And he came over. He said, yeah, these guys are good. I think they do wonderful for this. So by that time, I was doing, local shows, small shows, and, high school gyms and stuff, getting my breaks. So I've been in the rings, a few times. Nothing of that caliber yet, but, you got to start somewhere. Then we started going up there and doing TV. I had my hair was, just long, and doing my shape. I was RT Reynolds.
Right.
You work with whoever, they wanted you to work with.
Do you remember any of the guys that you worked with at that time?
Oh, absolutely. I can sit there and can I name drop? Literally everybody, which was a fantastic learning experience. Like the first time you get in the ring with Black Jack Mulligan, you're like, man, this Black Jack Mulligan, you're a huge man. You're a mark. You're trying to get into this profession, but these are people that you admired. You see on TV that are larger than life. Tag teaming against Jimmy Snuka and Ricky Steamboat and taking, just Snuka's splash. It was like, wow, I got splashed by Jimmy Snuka, even though you're doing the job. Literally everybody. I mean, I never wrestled in a single match against Andre, but you're in there from Big John Studd to the British Bulldogs to Ricky Steamboat to Jimmy Snuka, Roddy Piper, Bobby Orton, Jesse Ventura, Adrian Adonis, Sheik Volkov,
wow.
Barry Windham, Mike Rotundo. There was such a vast amount of talent up there, and these were all world-class athletes and, premium wrestlers. You couldn't help but learn. If they put you to the side, hey, man, you did good, or you need to improve and listen up a little bit. They were very professional. They were all good like that because they wanted to look good. And yeah, you're up there to do a job, but hey, you can do more than let me kick you in the stomach, I'll pound you on the back and kill you.
Right.
Let's try to have a match. So it started working like that. I did that for, about 6 months, going up to Canada, going on to Poughkeepsie. Poughkeepsie mainly at the time, we would do the TV there. And George Scott was in the booking office at the time, and Vince. We were staying at a hotel, Holiday Inn, and they were just sitting there at the bar. We were talking with each other, and Vince called me over.
This is Vince Jr.
Yeah.
Right.
Vince,
he already passed away.
Right now, Vince, Vince
right.
Jr. His father had passed by then, and he said, hey, Mike, how you doing? I said, good, Mr. McMahon, how are you? And he said, I'm doing well. I said, have a seat. I said, okay. And he said, so I've been watching you. How you doing? I said, I'm doing well, sir. I like coming up here. I've learned a lot. There's a lot of great people that are working for you. And I said, it's like a dream come true. It's very interesting and intrigued. And, thank you for letting me come up. He said, okay. Bought me a beer. And, a couple months went by. And we were doing TV every 2 weeks. And then he told Jay Strongbow, chief, road agent, hey, Chief, put Kirchner under a hood. So I went from RT Reynolds So I had a yellow mask.
Right.
It was just that yellow mask, and then I was the Axeman all of a sudden.
Huh.
So I was the Axeman, still doing jobs, but still going up there. Well, no, probably did that for about 2 months, and then Hulk Hogan called me. He said, Mike, I said, damn, so what's doing?
Huh.
He says, I want to talk to you. I said, okay. He has office, Vince and them have been watching you work over the last few months, and they like what you see. They like what they see, and they want to give you a break. And it's like euphoria, I mean, what do you do? A break? We want, put you to work full time in WWF. And I said, that'd be fantastic, outstanding, wonderful, all those other great words that you could think of at that time. And I said, yeah, I'd love to do that. He said, all right, Vince wants to see you in the office next week. He wants you to, but I had, like the long hair.
Right.
All right. I had a beard and stuff. Trying to look like the Bruiser Brody kind of thing. So he took me off TV for about a month. I shaved the beard. I cut the hair. Well, I went to see Vince, the next week. I went to, up to Sanford, and we talked about my past. I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. I was a paratrooper, and Sergeant Slaughter had a hell of a run, up there for Vince. But then he decided, and I had a falling out. It was time for him to go, and I guess Vince's mentality at that time was anybody is expendable. Not you. Yeah, you are tremendous talent. You made a lot of money for me, but when you start getting believing your ego and
right.
You're worth more than this. I'm a businessman. Sarge decided to go, and he said, "You were in the Army, right?" Yeah, and I told him, I was a paratrooper, and I did this, and a soldier, and he wanted to create another military character. And he says, "What were you in the Army?" I said, "I was a corporal." And he said, "Corporal Kirchner." And he said, "That's who you're going to be."
Huh. Wow.
And I said, "Outstanding." And I told him, he said, "Well, what type of training did you do?" I said, "As a paratrooper, Vince." I think, if you want, we could do promo shoot and jumping out of an airplane. I thought, something original. I said, one thing in this sport that I've never seen is anybody jump out of a plane, and I can do this. So you want to do that? And I said, absolutely. And he said, that's a great idea. Got a film crew together and everything else. I said, Vince, I don't have the $1,500 for the for private thing. He said, I'll take care of all those expenses. Let's get you down to Florida and we'll start shooting promos.
Right.
And that's when I did, the scenes where I actually did, skydiving and jumping out of a plane and swimming in the swamps.
I remember that was great.
Working my way, for my break.
Right.
When I come out there.
Was there any pressure on you, I guess, to follow in Sergeant Slaughter's footsteps?
Tremendous. When you asked me before, one of the hardest things come out, that people didn't want to accept me. They loved Sergeant Slaughter. They loved that gimmick. He was the drill sergeant type. I had to be, that's when Rambo came out. I didn't want to be another Sergeant Slaughter. I was doing a military gimmick, but I didn't want to come out there and be Sergeant Slaughter. I wanted to be the Corp. So, you had to find your footsteps, real quick and learn very fast. Was it difficult? At first, yeah, that's something that you're living in his shadow. What are you going to do different from the sergeant? What makes you think you might even ever become close or even quite as good as that gimmick?
Right.
Your cheap imitation of what a Slaughter wannabe, I didn't want to be.
I guess, were you pretty impressed with Vince's operation at the time, and did he promise you anything?
Never any promise. Vince McMahon, well, he's brilliant. He's a tremendous businessman. Vince is an opportunist. He gives you an opportunity. Here's your chance. You're either going to make it or you're not going to make it. But I did give you the chance.
Right.
What you do with that chance It's up to you. You're a kid in a candy store. You can go crazy, or you can control yourself. It's all up to you. So that's one thing I will say about Vince. He gave me the opportunity. He's taking nightly reports. How's this guy doing? How's this new gimmick working? Is he going to keep investing money in me? Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? He'd ask the road agents, is he acting right, or everything else. So that's what Vince didn't promise me, but he did give me that opportunity. You're either going to make it or you're not going to make it.
So when you teamed up with Slaughter, it was pretty well known that he was on his way out. And was there a certain time limit of how long you're going to be with Sarge until you're on your own? Or
I actually was never with the Sarge.
Oh, that's right. He already had left. Okay.
He had left, and then that's when he wanted to bring me in to to fill that spot with a new character.
And you went right into a program, I think, with the Sheik and Volkov, right?
Very, very soon, yeah. Very
right.
Close with that.
What are your memories of those matches?
They're wonderful.
Huh.
They're great. They're such unique characters. One thing that I didn't understand then that I do now, that I think about and I laugh, and I'll come up with this story too that I'll tell you how it applies. Was Sheik and Volkov are characters. They're larger than life. They're like a cartoon character. And say, image, here's the big Russian,
right.
And which he was. And here's the Sheik, which he was from Iran. He was from Russia. Not two Americans trying to act like that. They were truly like that, but they were truly themselves too. They worked and breathed and believed their gimmicks. That's how they were. Sheik, crazy as hell.
Yeah.
I was really daddy, and slapping his chest. The guy would work his clubs and do free squats and train, but very professional. Man was dedicated in the ring, working his gimmick. He lived it, he breathed it, he believed it, and he wanted just as much out of you in there. He wanted you to work hard. He wanted the people. You had to be a cheerleader. You had to be in great condition to work with him, just to say USA, USA 10,000 times a night while you're working with the Sheik.
Right, right. You also teamed with Davey Boy Smith against the Hart Foundation. What are your memories of those matches?
Davey Boy Smith, Hart Foundation, wonderful. Davey Boy was a really good guy, a good friend of mine on the road the whole time we were there, him and Dynamite.
One of the best ribbers in the business.
Oh, that's what we were getting to. A classic ribber in the business. He never knew what happened, though. It's like, I don't know who could do this. And hated to be paid back for that. You'd be towards the end of the card and you'd be going back in the locker room, there's a lock on your bag. The zippers are locked shut. You get that open and you're... the towel that you're going to dry off with is cut up into little wash rag size pieces. He was a great ribber. A good story I have for him is we were in Buffalo, New York, just checked into the hotel. And knocked on my door. What's up? He goes, fucking hell, Corp, almost got electrocuted. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, I was pissing in my air conditioner. And it started on fire and sparking. I'm going, idiot, what are you doing pissing in your air conditioner? He was just that kind of guy. I mean, were we immature and do pranks and do stuff like that, crazy stuff on the road? Yeah, we always did.
Right.
But working with him, worked hard hitter, he's just a great wrestler. He's a hell of a guy.
What about WrestleMania 2? You worked WrestleMania 2, and how much pressure was there on you to work in front of that size of a crowd?
By that time, I got established. I've been working with the Sheik and the Volkov and like the British Bulldogs. So I'd been in over a year working for Vince then. My confidence level was good. Working with Nick in that match was great. I knew what to expect from him and vice versa. So it was exciting because it was WrestleMania. It's like going to the Super Bowl in our sport. You're good enough to be in front of the world, and it was WrestleMania 2 because WrestleMania 1 was such a success that we wanted to do the show. We were shooting in Chicago, New York, and California simultaneously, matches from all over. It was a flag match. I mean, Nick had a flag match that night. It was in Rosemont Horizon in Chicago. It was, I don't think pressure, just exciting. You wanted everything to go well. is what you wanted. With working with Nikolai, that's what you had to do. You had to work with Nikolai. He's not going to take certain bumps. He wasn't going to do certain moves. You had to work with him. Not that your match was going to suck. You weren't going to push Nick around.
Right.
He was too strong. Not that that was a problem, but because we always, worked professionally and worked well together. But nothing, we had our dance done, our A, B, and C routine. Okay, let's do this. Okay, let's do this. And then being that we were simulcast from 3 different places, it was almost like doing TV at that time. We had time limit. I think it was like 8 to 10 minutes or something in there. They gave us the signal, okay, let's take it home. It was cool having Freddie Blassie out there. Freddie was such a character. It's always a joy to have him around. The pencil neck geek.
Speaking of guys that are also around, you also teamed with George Steele. What do you remember about teaming with George?
That's a story. Lots of stories with George. It's wonderful. A wonderful man. He, a great guy, a fantastic teacher, a good man. I mean, those are all sincere and heartfelt and true. Working with George Steele, okay, I wanted to be the corp, I wanted to be the wrestler and do the high flying stuff, and then they started teaming me with George, going crazy. I said, how am I going to tag team with this guy? One of the most important things I think I ever learned was with George Steele, is because we were working with Sheik and Volkov all the time. In the first match I had with him, okay, we're going to work this like a tag team, like the other guys they tag. You sit there and you fight, boom, you go to your partner, you tag him in, and here he comes in. I'm doing something like that. I go to give George a tag, and George turns around, and we're in Houston. There's a big video dome thing, up there. He's going, Corporal! And Sheik and Volkov get on me. They beat the hell out of me that night. Just, not literally, but, they stayed on me.
Right.
Every time I tried to get a tag, George would turn around and do something. And just kept going and going. I kept fighting these two. Finally, I did, the slide between the legs. George is there. He comes in, he bites him, he does his thing, he does his routine. And everything like that, he was the animal, so he did that. Match finishing, we did our finishing that stuff. Going back to the locker room, he pulled me aside and said, let me tell you something. I'm in the ring. I'm not a wrestler. I am a gimmick. Okay? George the Animal Steele doesn't do the same things that you do. Don't you dare ever give me a cold tag again. When you bring me in the ring, you make it mean something. That's how we work this. When I come in and I do my routine, it's got to be set up, and I'm ready to do it like that. And I fully understood what he was talking about. Yeah, George, he's an animal. He did the crazy stuff. Just coming over there, okay, George, now it's your turn. It didn't get it, and it wham, fire alarms in my head. I see what it means, and it was just a great learning experience. It wasn't a problem. That's how you learn.
Right.
And after we got that down, we charged the ring together. I'd be stomping around, and he'd be doing this thing, and the fans were loving it. So working in with that, great memories.
What do you remember about Randy Savage from around this time period? A lot of people we do interviews with say he was really possessive and jealous about Elizabeth and paranoid.
That's another man that I want to talk about. I would give my career at the time and, my success in the WWF to Randy Savage. Notre Dame. We've been working a few times together. All right, let me talk about how I want to set this up. Like you said, you go in there's a lot of big name talent in the WWF. When you work with the top guys, everything is cool because they want to have a great match. But the guys that had been there for a while, that never got the break that I started off with on top, and they've been working their way up, there's some animosity there. You try to have a good match with them, it takes 2 people to dance. It takes 2 people to work. If you're not going to take this bump, if you don't want to do this, if you're going to be lazy, or they have more experience than you, so you're trying to let them show you, and they're making you look terrible, it was a problem. Not all the time, but sometimes. How's he doing? He's having good matches, he's having so-so matches. And I realized that. It's like, man, this shit has to stop.
Right.
or I'm going to be out of here. And then I started working with Randy Savage, and Randy taught me a totally new, just not a totally new thing, his professionalism. He wanted everything to go perfect. He wanted everything right, and he expected the same thing out of you. He wanted to make you the best that you could be working with him. He wanted to make you top looking down. Do this, do this. He could sit there, okay, Wilbur, do this, let's counter you.
Right.
And he taught me as a heel how, to call a match, how to make a guy look good, how to work like in a different sense, not I'm only worried about me looking good. If you suck, well, hey, that's your problem. He wouldn't let that happen. So at that time, it changed my attitude and made me look at things. No, this match is going to go. If it's not going the way I'm going, you're not calling the match. I'll start doing my own thing. Which didn't create any conflicts, but there's a different respect.
Right, totally.
That's right. And then you ain't going for this shit anymore. Hey, I don't like what's going on. Hey, plan A isn't working. Time to go to plan B. And everything's, was on the uprise from there. Elizabeth, beautiful woman. Randy and Elizabeth, were they? They were working, his manager. Was he possessive of her? Oh, very. I mean, he didn't. You could be social with Elizabeth, give her respect, and Liz, how you doing? Because we were always together because we were traveling so much. Right. Everybody, not just them. Always to themselves, very quiet. Yeah, you never saw them out in the bar or anything, but those two were always together. I like I say, other people would know them differently and might have something to say, but my memories with Randy and, working relationship with them, I have nothing but, good words for him.
How about Butch Reed? You worked with Butch?
Butch Reed?
Yeah.
The natural?
Yep.
I don't know where he got that blonde hair from. Nice guy. Even out of the ring, we used to hang out a lot together, socialize in the evening, and just a good athlete, a nice guy, fun,
easy to work with, light. Butch is a big guy. He gave me my first gorilla slam. Huh.
Picked me up over his head like this, set up and worked with it. And it's like, yeah. But yeah, Butch is a great guy.
Were you upset that you did a lot of stretcher jobs for Kamala around this time period too?
I wasn't real happy about it. Okay, that's when. That's when, but right. Okay. Let me think how I put this. You learn the pecking order in the business sometimes. Okay, Hulk Hogan. Ichiban, he was number one. Hulkamania was, crazy. He was going to be the champion. Then you had your tag champions. Then you had the Intercontinental champion, which was subject to change here and there, but belt holders pretty much kept their place
right
for a while, mostly for quite a while. All right, you're not going to it wasn't babyface back in those days. You had to be either a heel or a babyface. So before you get to Hogan, who do you have to beat? I kind of got that spot. Well, not just myself, but others, okay? So, right, you do Kamala. Oh, I'm going to fight the Ugandan Giant in this match. So he had to get squashed rather than worked, or
right,
have
so
that excitement. You get your ego is somewhat bothered right there. It's like, why am I just getting squashed? Can't we just have a good match, and you get a pin? No, he's got to crush you, and then they got to stretch you. So, at the time, yeah, I would say I wasn't happy about that.
What about teaming up with Dick Slater? What are your memories of teaming with Dick?
Dick Slater, great guy. Remember last time we worked together? I don't know if it was the last time, but we worked against the Hart Foundation in Madison Square Garden, and we just had a rocking good match that night. We were just sharp, and those guys were on top of their game. I have a great memory of that match.
Is it true that some guys kind of refused to work with you because they were scared of you at all? That was like one of the rumors.
Can you give me any details?
I don't know any names. Yeah.
Why? Were scared of me?
Yeah, I don't know why either.
At what time?
This is
what time period, or was it
maybe right after?
Was it in the WWF?
Yeah, WWF. Maybe didn't know or anything.
It's kind of like going back to what I was telling you. Scared of me? No. Some of them might say I was green because Vinny gave me that break right out of the chute. I wasn't around for 10 years and down the road. So were they scared with me? Like I said, there was some animosity there because, man, I've been here 10 years and this new guy's getting this break that I deserve.
Right.
You know, why should I make him look better or get him up where he needs to be? I wouldn't say scared, but that feeling right there where the matches weren't as good as they were because of that reason.
Okay. What about your matches with Jake Roberts? What do you remember working with Jake, who's one of the greatest minds in the business?
Wonderful. Yeah, I mean, he's good. He's like Randy, too. He'd sit there, he'd just talk you through a match, take your time, do this, like that. It was like a story, you know, just walking you through a match, how it wants to go. Brilliant. A ring technician, absolutely. Come up with great finishes, this, boom, 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 to set something up. He was a great guy in the ring.
Memories of Roddy Piper. In fact, I think he did a pit, too.
I did a Piper's pit, and just... Roddy had $1 million mouth. He was never with a loss for words. You work with him. He was a professional. He's another guy that you learn from. He was like George. He was a wrestler, but he was larger than life. He was a gimmick too. A poke in the eyes from Roddy Piper was a high spot. Huh. You hit him with a sunset flip and you go like this and you reach up and you pull his trunks half down. You know, he's acting like he doesn't know his pants are half pulled down. He's going 5 minutes with his ass hanging out. Fans are laughing.
Right.
Then he finally notices, hey, my pants are pulled down. He pulls it up and he makes a big deal out of it. You learn timing and acting. It's not just all stomping each other. It's when to do something, how to do it, work it, not work and change it. So it was always a joy working with somebody who could teach you like that.
Why were you on WrestleMania 3, and did you try to get on the show at all?
It wasn't up to me.
It was the office.
The office decides, okay, if you were in 2, here's a new card, WrestleMania 3. And by that time, it was just, I wasn't, like I say, the Kamala stretcher jobs?
Right.
I was kind of in a higher up whipping boy spot. All right, you can beat him, so we got to beat him because I wasn't fighting Nikolai or Sheik in that type match. I was still doing the military thing. And I don't think there just wasn't a spot that they wanted to put me in at that time, for WrestleMania 3.
Okay. Why do you think you weren't pushed as much after the Sheik and Volkov feud?
It's the military thing.
Right.
Okay, that was natural heat. We'd done it for 2 years. Kirchner's going to fight with George or Tito or whoever with that. And it went kind of stagnant for a while right there. It wasn't up to me to make the match. It's up to the office. What I want and what they want, I can't,
right.
2 different things. Say, I think this would work good. Well, this is what we want you to do.
I think you also worked Honky, down in Florida in 87. You subbed for Jake. How did that come about?
You told me, hey, you're in there with the Honky Tonk.
Easy match?
Yeah, Honky wasn't going to dazzle you with his wrestling moves. He was more working on the gimmick thing, too. And it's a weird story because Ricky Steamboat at that time was the Intercontinental Champion, and things weren't working good for him. So one of the few times he ever did a job on TV was for the Honky Tonk Man for the title.
Right.
So there was some friction in the office. We had a problem with him then, and Vince's idea was, I have the best talent in the world. Egos are starting to get here and here. Guys, I want this. And Vince let you know that he was in charge. So he said, well, guess who's going to be our new Intercontinental Champ? Not the most talented. Honky held the title for 5 years, the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. So that puts him, who's he going to beat? He's going to beat everybody, which I did Saturday Night Main Event, and I think his Shake, Rattle, and Roll or something. Yeah. Did the job for him, but they tell you, what are you going to say? No, I'm not doing the job. I can outwork this guy. And it wasn't like that. WWF stands for the Wide World of Fantasies.
What about Harley Race? Memories of working with Harley?
Wonderful. I have a great Harley Race story. You're asking, about tension like WrestleMania. I just gotten started, not started, but I've been working for a while. But Harley Race 11, or a legend, 7-time real world champion, a great professional, good guy outside the ring and in the ring. And we were cutting interviews, and I had to work with Harley. And where we working? Kemper Arena. That's Harley's Kingdom. That's the Madison Square Garden for Harley Race,
right
out there in Kansas City. And I'm like, oh hell. So Hogan's on top. We're semi-main. And I'm used to being, big baby face, of course, the flag and stuff. I went to Kemper Arena, and it was like a mixed reaction. Like, it's throwing me off. Harley came out, and the place went. I thought Hogan came out because that's the house that Harley built. And he gets in the ring, and I'm in there. So I start off, a little bit hard, tight on that lock off. And he said, "Kid, take it easy, kid. Settle down, settle down, settle down." I said, okay. And we went 23 minutes that night, and he made me look like $1 million in his house.
Awesome.
Everything, did this, do this, all right, I do my stuff, and he told me that. I remember the finishing move, we used a good wrestler, the fisherman suplex. And, 1, 2, 3 in the middle. Back then, you couldn't shake hands after a match, say like in Japan. I just want to get up and shake his hand and thank you for giving me a match like that. But that's one of my fondest memories, I say, of matches. I was working Harley that night in Kemper Arena.
Especially in his backyard.
Right.
What about Rick Rude? You also got to work with Rick.
Very good guy. Nice guy in and out of the ring. Very professional in the ring. Very light. In touch, working style. Like to put on a good match. Was exciting. He brought the best out in you. He wasn't worried about him. He wasn't worried about getting over. He wanted to have a good match and do the best that you could with working with you.
Right.
What can you do? I can do this. Great. We're gonna have a great night tonight, and we do it.
How approachable was Vince back at this time period? If you ever had a problem, did you have to go through different people to get to Vince, or were you able to pretty much go up to Vince?
Back then, it was pretty open door policy. Vinny was around sometimes. You'd ask to talk to him. He'd either brush you off, or he'd give you a minute, or he'd say, "Come by the office and see me." If you didn't have time for you, you got the brush off. Vince, I'd like to talk to you. Vince, I'd like to talk. If he wouldn't talk to you after a while, you knew something wasn't right.
Right. How bad was the drug scene around this time period?
How much time we got?
The late 80s.
It was rampant.
Right.
Literally rampant. By that time, the time we're talking about how approachable was and doing like this, everybody was either sauced up. Cocaine was running rampant through there because we were running so hard. We partied every night, including myself. Took coke to keep us going, took sleeping pills to slow us down, took steroids to keep us big, alcohol that we had the candles lit at both ends, and everybody was running hard. So it was tolerated for a while, and then it started to become a problem because everybody was,
right.
Then they started to do drug testing. And we wouldn't know when that would happen. We were up in Canada one night, and 6 of us got told, "You're out the card." Why? "Well, we'll call you at home. You're suspended for 6 weeks. Drug tests." And then it was like kind of a reality check. They were going, pretty hard on it. And you get into the thing where you're used to doing that, and you're just go, 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 go. You don't make the right decisions when you're like that. It's okay, like say doing a blade job. You ask me to sit there and cut my face up with a razor, and then you're gonna get on my ass for partying at night or with something to keep me going. Neither one of them is right. One's the lesser of the two evils. You can't justify really either one of them, but it was like part of the business. It's like working in a bar and not drinking. It's like, yeah, I drink, I work in a bar.
Right.
And that type of mentality. You're just so used to going that drugs were like, yeah, you take vitamins, you take steroids. You had to be bigger than life. So when he said, yeah, no more of this, it's like, what do you mean no more of this? So there was a lot of...
Do you think you were singled out, looking back?
I wouldn't say I was a victim. I always believe to this day, take credit for your own work. Did I flunk a piss test? Yeah. Did I get suspended for, that 6 weeks? Yeah. I didn't lose my job. I was scheduled to go back to work after that. The time came where I was supposed to go back to work that day, and I called them and just told them that I won't be coming back. I never got fired. It's just, I just decided that I didn't want to be there anymore. And through my personal life at that time, too, I was going through a divorce. Right. There was no angel out on the road. I was the kid in the candy store. I liked to party. I liked to drink. I liked to fight hard. I liked to travel hard. Going out with two women at the same time wasn't the best choice in my life at the time, because the wife at the time really didn't like it.
Right. You ended up working for Stu Hart following this. What are your memories of working Stampede?
Good memories. I liked I liked working up there. I liked working for Stu. Me and Bret Hart were good friends, and I always liked that. It wasn't the WWF, so you'd have to say it's a step down.
I think Stampede wasn't it dying around this period of time, or?
Yeah, it wasn't great. Bob Johnson was doing the booking out there. Okay, we're going to travel 500 miles tonight to the Indian reservation that has 8 people in it. Huh. I used to scream, what are you doing? Can't you see? We have to make money. Calgary was always, a real good show. And Edmonton, we do Edmonton, Calgary on Friday and Edmonton on Saturday every week. And those were always good draws. And the guys up there, they worked well.
Who were some of the guys up there? Was Pillman and Benoit there at the time?
Yeah, Chris Benoit was there. He just come back from the Japanese dojo. Brian Pillman was there. Owen was there.
Bad News, was he there? Or Bad News Brown, was he there?
Bad News Allen or Bad News Brown, right? He was there. We had good talent. Moccasin was up there. Jerry Morrow. Barry Orton. Myself. Hito from Japan.
Was Hasi there?
Hiro Hasi. Yep. I tagged with Hasi quite a few times when I was up there. So talent-wise, we had some really good talent there. Like Stu, great guy to work for. I used to go eat at his house on Sundays.
Did he ever try to stretch you in the dungeon?
Oh, man. I go down the dungeon. Hey, Kirsch, come here. I want to show you something. Into this new move. I used to say, Stu, stay away from me. And he'd have his finger in the idea of down on there, Yeah, you big bastard. Let me show you this move. No, I don't see any moves from this, Stu.
All right,
but he was a great guy. Stu and Helen, I love going over there on Sundays. Having dinner. It was cool.
What about some of the other guys like Benoit and Pillman? Did you get to work with them at all in the ring?
Yeah, a lot.
Any memories that stick out?
Well, Chris came. Well, he didn't come. He was there. He wasn't as big as he is right now, physically wise. Back then, all right, your heavyweights were all your big guys, all right? Then there was like the cruiserweight division. Right. So they really didn't mix it up. You fought the smaller, he fought, the smaller guys, and the big guys wrestled the bigger guys. There's just a mentality in the way it is. It isn't like it is now, where, the Lucha Libre style or the Japanese style, he was bringing a lot of new, exciting stuff over that I was watching. Like, man, where are you getting that? It's like Japan, it's how they work over there. So really, yeah. So that was a great learning experience, or sometimes we tag team or like working with Hasi. Hasi would show me some, good stuff that he learned in Japan. That wasn't really American style. So yeah, it was a good learning experience. Those were good guys.
From there, you went to Portland, Oregon for Don Owens.
Actually, Billy Jack.
Oh, okay, Billy. Okay, you're right. It was different.
Don had the territory up there, and Billy wanted to have his territory there too. He brought in some good talent, but they call him, his name Billy Jack, they call him Billy Whack though sometimes too, because he just goes off the wall. You don't think you're talking to the same guy. Okay, I want this. By that time, I'd cleaned up my act. Things were good. I was training. I looked good. Yeah, great. This is going to be a good opportunity working for you, working in Oregon, area. We had a nice arena, good talent there. We had Ricky Santana was up there, Johnny Ace was up there, myself, Ray Candy, Mike Miller, Brian Adams, who would go to WWF, has crashed.
Right.
Was up there. Billy was up there. Tugboat, or Fred Ogren, Big Fred. Freddie was there. And we were Tiger Chung Lee. So we had guys who were talented, were working hard, and it was good. We weren't working enough. Billy would decide something, and then, all right, we got to have a meeting tomorrow night. Well, I don't like the way this is going or that's going, and this is how it is. If it's coming down to me and my family eating, or you guys working, he says, I'm taking care of me and mine. And if anybody doesn't like it, there's the door. He lost 3/4 of his guys that night.
Wow.
And then Kevin Kelly was also there.
Right.
Okay. And they just looked at each other. Can you believe this shit this guy's telling us? We've been busting our ass doing whatever we can to make this work. And he said, and if you guys want your last paycheck Friday, which was TV, because we were filming TV, you come in, you do a job for whoever I have here, and you leave. He didn't have a TV that night because everybody said, you know what? Screw you.
Right.
No.
Wow.
But he had to post a surety bond up there, so there was $10,000 in the bank, and there was the wrestling commission in Oregon, so you guys will get your money. And he lost his business because of that. It was, I would say, because of him. He just started getting paranoid, thinking nobody was working hard enough, this wasn't work, he didn't want to work here. Granted, it takes money to make money. It was a big investment, but it wasn't because of his talent. It was because of him and his decisions. Let us go out there, let us work, let us, let's do what we do.
Do you think Vince sabotaged him a little bit?
I don't know.
Okay.
I couldn't see. I wouldn't have a story. Yeah, one night that this happened. We were working the territory like back in the day. You worked the Northeast, so that was North. Don Owens was the only
competition.
WWF at the time occasionally came, did the Portland Arena.
Right.
Once every couple months, so it was never a real threat there.
Right. What about WCW? Did you ever try to get into WCW?
Not really. I put a couple of feelers out here or there. By that time, there was a lot of talent, disgruntled employees from Vince. All right, you go to WCW. But it's like trying to find that space with your gimmick, okay? The military guy. After me, I think there was...
Ranger Ross.
Okay, I was going to use that. Okay, we got Ranger Ross now, and then even Dick Murdoch. Okay, I'm going to be Captain Redneck for a while. So, grabbing the flag and doing... Even Hogan was coming out. I am the real American. So it was kind of like an overused gimmick. You want to get instant gratification, grab the flag. Oh, okay, we're conditioned USA, USA. No matter who you're working against. Duggan, Hacksaw did it too. So it was kind of played out that made me think, all right, I've done this. I've been doing this. It does work, but everybody's doing the same dance. What's going to separate me from that and make me different? The dinosaur, change or go extinct. And this business rapidly changes by day or week by week. So it's watch what other guys are doing, see what you like, see what you don't like, and see if it'll work for you. And then the opportunity. Hey, I want to give you a job. Well, we don't need that type of character right now. We don't have a Nikolai. We don't have a Sheik. We don't have this or that. So I thought about, all right, what would I do if I went there? Okay, I could wrestle. That's good. Looked at the top guys. How easy is it going to be to displace them? Not displace them, but you work out. They have a good run with them, work a program with them, like we did, like that. Or they're set, you had Tully up there, you had Arn up there, you had the Horseman, you had Rick. Only, the guys doing the books. And it's like, it just didn't seem like a good business. You might get on the crew, but you're just going to be in that limbo position. You can have great matches and stuff, but you're not going to take a top spot.
Right. I guess backtracking a little bit, when you were in WWF, what was it like being a WWF superstar during this time period? It was a big wrestling boom, and you're a national superstar.
Living like a rock star.
Right.
Like you say, when you bring up the drugs, the candle was lit up right then. We partied, we rocked, we had fun. Once you get your spot there, or you were up on top there, you were treated well and expected to work hard, and it's easy trap to fall into. You get used to it. It's like, your ego, you're known everywhere, you're on the tube every week, you're go every night, different women, different towns, different parties. You're going to be in the bar, the party's going on. I can't say every single wrestler's like, but a majority of us were.
How'd you wind up in Japan working for FMW?
Oh, it's not a hard question. Well, the first time I went to Japan, like you said, I left. I've been through Calgary, and then I went to Oregon and quit there. And then I was putting those feelers out, like said WCW, seeing what they're doing there. I'd heard talk about Japan. I did an independent show, and Bobby Orton was on the card. And he said that he had just come back from Japan. I said, "What's it like?" He said, Gordon's pretty good. Sitting there, I like Japan, it's all right.
Sounds just like him. It's great.
I said, "Well, I like it, Bobby. Yeah, you do good there." So anyway.
That's awesome.
I said, he gave me a number to New Japan booking agent. She spoke English and Japanese, of course. And I said, I'd be interested in coming over to your company if you'd have me. And give her a full resume. I worked for WWF for a few years and worked in Stampede and this and that. And she said, okay. I sent her some pictures and, some credential stuff and some tapes. And he gave me a call back. A couple of weeks and said, would you be interested in going to Japan for a month, for New Japan? I said, yeah, absolutely. So I went for my first trip over to Japan for New Japan. Did well, had a good spot there and did well. You're gaijin, you're going to put over their top guys, but they're bringing you in and you're working on top rather than limbo. Japanese style, my first time over there was like, communication was different. The matches are different. The crowd psychology is different.
Yeah.
It was the changing time. In Japan, you do 10 high spots in a row, they go. And then they sit there like this and they watch, okay, what are you going to do next? Wasn't the enthusiasm that you used to, I'm walking out, everybody knows, like, you're here, or USA, They took it like more serious and discourage you. Don't be coming out there yelling at people and doing things like that. That's me. That's what I want to do.
Right.
But I saw how strict and disciplined it was. So I finished the tour and acted right, and had a good time there. Went over, I don't know, about two months later. Called me back. Hey, would you do like a 6-week tour? Went over there and did the 6-week tour, and it was good work. Same thing. And I didn't hear anything from them for a while, so there was other companies. One of my buddies, Ricky Santana, I don't know if he's still up in the New York office or not.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I haven't spoke to him in quite a while, but at the time he was booking in Puerto Rico. And as I mentioned earlier, back in the day when I first started breaking in, he was training with me. He helped train me, and vice versa.
I got to switch tapes. That's 1 hour.
Are we ready?
Yep, we're talking about Ricky Santana in Puerto Rico.
Okay, Ricky was booking in Puerto Rico. And he asked me, Mike, you interested in going to Puerto Rico? And that was right after Bruiser Brody got murdered there. And I said, I have no desire to go to Puerto Rico.
Would that be working for Carlos?
Yeah. And I said, no. Business, the money wasn't good, and it was just a bad scene there. I wanted nothing to do with it. Because I did idolize him as one of the guys that, modeled myself. Not after, but I admired his work. So I said no. And he said, all right. He said, hey, there's a new company over in Japan. I said, yeah. doing hardcore stuff. And at that time, it was like taboo here. It's like, when working with the older wrestlers here, I won't do this move. I won't do. You got everything that they wouldn't do. Not, hey, we're going to use barbed wire. We're going to do this. It's like, no, we're not going to do that. A chair shot was like extreme at that time. So they say, yeah, they're hardcore. I said, what do you mean hardcore? Man, they do crazy shit over there. They're doing barbed wire bats, and I had that same mentality. Were they crazy? Huh. And he said, but I'm not looking for the corp. Something more extreme, something crazy. And I'm a horror movie fan. I was like thinking, and he was bouncing stuff off. He said, because he knew me for a long time, he said, what about something like Leatherface or some kind of character like that? And Chainsaw Massacre, to me at the time, was one of the most terrifying movies ever made. The time period it came out, and I said, that guy scared the shit out of everybody. He was just a total maniac. You'd not expect, and come over like that, and then wham! It's like the sun rose, alarms went off. It was like I knew how Japan was, and they wanted you to sit here like this, and to come out with a character like that, so disorderly, crazy, anything would go. I said, hey, bro, I think we got something here. He says, okay, come up with this character, and the tour starts from here, and go back to Japan for a month. I said, you got it. So what I worked out is my alter ego here. Put the dreads in here so I could work it like that. And that was the mask that I came up with. Usually what I'd do is I'd sit there and I'd cut my finger or something, I'd gig it, and then I'd sit there and put the blood drops here and outline it here and just make, this is very clean right now because we had it in storage for quite a while.
Right.
But leather was bloody, and then I would put on a butcher's apron and take a handprint and do it like this, and I'd work it, and I worked the outfit, and I had, just a whacked out tie on and the butcher apron, got the mask going, wore like high-tech boots, like military, type boots, and then Levi's, and just built my suit of armor there. It's like, well, this is the character I came up with, took pictures of it, and he's awesome, man. This thing is great. I like it. Is it going to work? And that's when Leatherface was born.
What were your initial thoughts of Onita, who was in charge of the company when you went over?
Well, we're not up to Onita yet. I'm not changing your question, but this was for the wing company.
Oh, okay, you went, okay.
Okay, and I worked for them. The character took off like wildfire over there. Just the pandemonium Leather would create was the other guys, Japanese style. You came out, you got in the ring, you did a nice little bow. A chainsaw, they'd hear it and go, what the hell is going on? And I didn't walk through the ring, I went through the crowd, throwing chairs, swinging a chainsaw, causing near riots in places. This guy is a maniac, and conditioned them after that first tour. Was like, anybody was fair game. Photographer got in my way, he got hit.
Right.
Okay, I'd throw chairs at anybody. Just a maniac. But that was the gimmick that no one else was doing there. It was just like, you might get the guys in the ring and they're doing the high-flying lucha libre, cross Japanese or stuff like that, but the intensity of the character is dangerous. It's like, they don't care how many drop kicks I can do or arm drags or execute suplexes to perfection. They want to see the madness in me, along with the wrestling technique. So when you had the moves down and the maniac, it just worked hand in hand, and it was, for a 10-year run, a tremendous character.
Who were some of the guys you worked with in the wing?
Wing Kanemaru.
Right. He actually stayed here when he came over for ECW.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kanemaru. Okay. I helped train him. Like when he was over there, he was a young boy, and helped him out a lot. And yeah, he's come a long way since then. Kanemaru was there. Ricky Santana also came over. Doug Gilbert was there. Eddie Gilbert was there.
Were you there the night they did the gimmick with in the ring? And they pledge your allegiance to Baba?
Actually, I was in jail.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about that coming up, so.
That's coming up. But, Doug Gilbert was there, and the Gilbert guys were there. Mr. Pogo was there.
Was Smothers over there at all when you were there?
Tracy Smothers, yep. Cheo Estrada had come there. Victor Quinones was there. Myself, Crash, yeah. He went to
Bill DeMont?
Bill DeMont, exactly.
Right.
That's what I was thinking. What gimmick did he work in? He went to, I think, the WWF.
He just was released. He was doing OVW.
Was he?
Yeah, he was like a trainer down there.
Okay.
Actually, Deep South, yeah.
Deep South?
Yeah.
But me and him I used to drive him crazy, but we were good friends. Kirchner, you make me nuts with this. And Mr. Danger, Masanaga.
Right.
Me, no technique, but Danger, okay. the things I did to that man, I still feel bad for this day, because he was Japanese honor, just getting in the ring with Leatherface, knowing that I got a nail brush, a chainsaw, that I'm going to hit him with anything that I can, hurt him. But, he had like the martial art type thing, so he had that going for him. But not the wrestling technique, but it just, the bloodbaths I would do, the horrible things I would do to him. The fans used to love it, so. Yeah, those were quite a few of the guys there, and everybody worked really hard, and we're coming up with fresh ideas and going places that ECW, borrowed a lot of our stuff from there. When they went extreme here, because you didn't see a barbed wire match, you didn't see a barbed wire match, which was quite away from like back in the day when you had the coal miner glove. You climbed it up, and once you put the glove on, boom, you had the magic knockout punch. That's all you needed. Or, you'd slip out the roll of quarters and you hit them and the quarters fly all over, which was great gimmicks. And you took just something like that and made it something special. But how we went over there, things just got more extreme and more extreme. What are we going to do next? We're in barbed wire cages and exploding bomb matches, and we're using fire. It was like nothing was really taboo. We didn't have a gun match. There was no gun fights, but everything else.
Not yet, at least.
Not yet, yeah.
I guess, how did you wind up working for FMW and Onita?
Okay, I was doing well in Wing. One night I had gone out. I was in, who was over there? One of the Canadian kids, Mike something, Thomas, Mike. Yeah, anyways, he was from Canada, and we were walking down the street in Roppongi, and he was blah, 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 starting shit with somebody, or said something about somebody's girl. So this guy comes running up, and you go back, it's about 4 a.m, but sun comes up there early, so we've been all done out partying and drinking, and this guy, blah, 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 you leave. Oh, yeah, okay, we're headed for the airport now. Fuck off and leave us alone. Keep going. Keep coming back. And he's blah, 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 and I did like this, and he whacked my hand. I just looked at him and said, pow! I caught him right here in the jaw. Broke his jaw. Knocked him out. I said, shit, why couldn't you just leave? And I took him, and I set him against the building, sitting up.
Right.
I just didn't leave him on the sidewalk. And just, idiot. Just so used to my character the way I'm at, all right, so what, I hit him. But there they have police stations, like little substations at every couple blocks. So they put up a roadblock. Stop the vehicle. Where's 4 big guys at 4 o'clock in the morning in Japan? You're easy to pick out.
Right.
So that cost me. That was during the tournament, when you talked about the Gilberts when they pledged their allegiance to that. I was in jail. I was in jail in Japan, so I had to do 4 months in jail.
What was that like?
It sucked.
Wow.
It wasn't, you weren't allowed to speak. And you just didn't, there was no beds or anything. It was just a mat on the floor, and you had to sit there against the wall all day. You couldn't lay down or anything. And that's what you did. I sat there for 4 months.
Nobody from America could get you out or anything like that?
Yeah, embassy would come by, you're doing okay. You're not a national, you're in a foreign country. So there was really nothing anybody could do.
Wow.
It was a good wake-up call. Reality set in. I was like, that sucks. And I said to her, yeah, it does. Here comes your, in the morning, you got a bowl of rice with dried minnows on top. At lunch, you got a hamburger bun, a squeezed thing of butter, some jelly, and a warm cup of water. And at night, just some small little, like Japanese, piece of fish and this or that. Hell, I lost 30 pounds there. So 4 months, $10,000 fine, and I got thrown out of the country for a year.
Wow.
I said, well, being crazy is okay, but there's a time and a place. It was a big wake-up call for me. It's not too fun. It wasn't funny at all. So I come back to the States for a year. Just was working in a nightclub as an activities director. Other people might call it a bouncer, but I looked at it more than that. Encouraging young women to take off their clothes and dance naked on a bar rather than beating somebody's head. And it was far more thrilling, exciting, and entertaining. So, call my job what you will. Politically correct, security.
Right.
My job, activities director. So after I was done as an activities director in a nightclub for a year, Masanaga had called me, Mr. Danger from Wing Company. Listen, what? And he said, me now, new company, FMW. Please, you come. Oh, Goto, really? I said, that would be wonderful. Mr. Onita, very excited your character come his company. That's what we're working towards, what you were saying there about how's Anita. I never really had any contact with Anita. I talked to, like Masanaga. He got me over there. And there was a English-speaking, Iba was his name, who took care of the gaijin, the foreigners and everything else there. So they brought me there for the first tour to see how I do. I had a year off. I was, ready to go, in good shape, and brought super. They said, only one problem. Other wing company, Leatherface, they say their character. And I said, okay, in Japan, super means bigger and better and everything else. So I thought Japanese was, okay, no more Leatherface, super leather. And that's where super leather came in, and same character, but a bit, just super leather. And so that's when I got, this, my chainsaw right there. So
that's awesome.
Wow, you'd be walking down the street sometime, they'd see that, leather. Laser. It sounded like laser. And I went to FMW. I didn't see Onita. He had basically retired at that time.
Right.
After the big Kawasaki match, I came in. That was in May, and I came there in August of '94. I'd see him occasionally. You'd see him like, hey, how you? So it was very standoffish, But some of the guys that I worked there with were incredible. Great time, good fun. We can go over, names. Do you have your next question there?
Well, I was going to ask you how physically demanding was the style and how long were the tours for in Japan?
Sometimes for 2 weeks and one time for 3 months. But the 3-month tour, I'd go to Japan, then I'd go to Korea. For Korea, I went to China. China, I went back to Japan. Then Japan, I went back to Korea, and then I came home. But
did you work as super leather in Korea as well?
Usually corporal. I did the corp in Korea.
What was that like? Because we just did an interview with Scott Norton. He said it was a horrible experience for him in Korea.
Korea's Korea. The talent, it's primitive.
Right.
They have their own way of thinking, and they can't work the same way you want to work. If you know what you're going into when you get there, that's Korea. Some guys would say, I hate that place. I'll never go back there again. To me, it was easy money.
Right. Go ahead. Did you add on to it? Or?
No, it's Korea's Korea. A great Korea story is I brought my wife there with me one time.
Right.
I like Japanese food. I like Oriental food, how they eat. I eat sushi. I'll eat the raw horse meat. I don't mind the squid or whatever else. You go out and they want to take you out at night and they bring you big trays of, fish, Go sit there and cut a fish. It's flapping on there, and you're sitting and eating it while it's still breathing or gasping for air. So she doesn't like fish. And I said, man, feeding her is going to be hard. She likes subahachis, where you can go there. They call it Japanese McDonald's. They got picture menus, and you can pick out good things. I said, we're going to Korea. You thought Japan was better. I said, wait till you see the food in Korea. Here comes the squid that's dancing on a hot grill. They put it on their live. The thing's going. She's going, oh my God, I can't eat any of that. She takes scissors, and they cut a tentacle and you eat it. And I said, I can't eat something like that. So we're sitting there and they're telling her, please, you eat. So, you don't like fish or something? What did they bring her out?
Don't say a monkey.
No, not a monkey. It's better than that. You ever seen them big, fat, white grubs?
What's a grub?
It's like a big maggot.
Oh.
And they eat them and say, oh, very good. And then they pick up a chopstick and they just like, juices in your mouth. So they brought out these big grubs and put them in front of her. And she about died. She says, Michael, no, please tell me they're not for real. And I said, oh, yeah, they're for real. And I told her, maybe no on grubs, but everybody else, would take one and eat it. And it was like, they brought her some apples and something.
Right.
Jenny Craig would have been proud of her that week. It was a great diet for losing weight. Saved me on food.
Yeah, exactly. Back to FMW. What are your thoughts on Mike Awesome? Any memories of Mike?
It broke my heart. I would say out of all the guys that I've known that we've lost, and I want to talk to you about that too. It just it took part of me away when that happened, when I found out how he went and why he went.
What was the reason? I mean, a lot of people said he had diabetes and stuff, but
it had nothing to do with it. Had nothing to do with it. He diabetes, okay, it's controllable. Mike was in good health. To speak of him, he was a tremendous athlete. I spent 5 years on the road with him, working with him, so many nights. We were very tight. Me, Mike, and Horace Boulder spent 5 years together. They call us the three Mikes. Leather Boulder and Gladiator.
Right.
I can't say that else, so he's always Gladiator. And we were just, so tight and so close, like brothers. What happened to Mike was his wife had a bad time. They were, in bed together, and she looked at him and said, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I looked at her, what are you talking about? She says, I can't stand you. I don't want nothing to do with you. And I'm seeing somebody else. You just ripped his heart out right there, okay? Got a little bit physical with her, grabbed her by the neck, and said, how could you do this to me? Threatened to kill her and stuff like that. And then, didn't, hurt her, but it was a bad scene. She called the police on him, had him arrested. He had a domestic, violence thing against him. She froze all his bank accounts. He went working for Vince for a while, and his money, he bought the house. He had 2 kids. Mike was very into his family and children, and she took all his clothes, threw them out, and pretty much took everything else. And you're going to be going to domestic violence and getting lawyers, and just kept putting the screws. It wasn't that burden to him. He just couldn't accept it. And not being able to see his kids, losing everything that he worked for. I didn't talk to him, anywhere near the time that he died. Neither did Mike Balea, Horse, the other Mike. And he said, Mike, I haven't spoke to you, they call me Leather, whichever, in a year, and I wish I would have seen him, but nobody saw it coming. He was supposed to go out with his friends, and when they got there, they found him dead. Oh. So it was, when I heard it, it was crushing. It was, like I said, a piece of me was lost that day.
Right.
Yeah.
He was a good guy. I know him in ECW. So
Yes. Hard worker.
nice.
Hard worker, liked to have fun. He was a great guy.
What are your memories of Mr. Pogo from FMW?
Pogo, good guy. You'd have your times with Pogo sometimes. You wouldn't agree with some of the things that he did. I can give you a good example when I say you wouldn't agree. Japanese is, you have the older guys, okay? You have the younger boys. The younger boys, you're pretty much a slave to the older ones. You do as you're told. See my son. You don't look wrong. And one time, this was in Wing Company, Pogo's on the card. One of the young boys was supposed to have done something, and he didn't do what he was supposed to or mess something up. And Pogo, after the match, came all pissed off. He had a razor in his hand and sliced the kid's face up right there.
What? That's crazy.
Shoot. The kid had to go to the hospital and get his face stitched up. Didn't call the police on Pogo, but it was pretty extreme.
That's crazy.
Work-wise, his back was bad at that time and stuff. He was over. It's kind of like Mr. Danger. More in like the extreme type thing. Okay, I'm going to use fire tonight, or I'm going to use like the sickle.
Right.
He'd work hard, but like doing something crazy where people go, oh, more danger than wrestling technique, more the theatrical and terror aspect rather than scientific wrestling.
Was there ever, animosity between you, Pogo, and Matsunaga to see who could one-up each other?
Yeah, not animosity, because we all had our different styles. Sometimes, like I say, I wouldn't agree with Pogo, but I got along with him. He put himself here, so he thought whatever he did was okay. And sometimes, bro, this would go better. We never came to, a bad scene, but there would be times where I wouldn't agree with what he's doing, listen, Japanese style, and bullshit Japanese style. This is bad business.
Right.
More of something like that. Just like that. But yeah, Pogo was a hard worker. A good guy. When I saw him do that, I wasn't too happy with him.
What happened then? Go ahead.
It's anywhere you go, that's something you don't do to somebody. You don't cut their face up with a razor because they pissed you off for not doing something.
Right, exactly.
Minor. Get caught with your old lady, maybe you deserve it, but making a mistake out by the ring, no, get your face sliced up.
In the summer of '95, actually, our office took a trip over to Japan, and we saw you guys, and it was one of the FMW shows. It was Pogo versus Funk, the outside stadium show. What happened in that match with Pogo where he took a bad bump with Funk onto the glass? He got injured? We didn't know if it was a work or...
Like I say, he did have a bad back.
Right.
Okay? This is how I would put it, like Japanese style. Say you don't want to do a job. Get hurt in a match. Are you hurt? Oh, my back. My back's gone. I can't continue. Fans say, oh.
So it was pretty much a planned spot between him and Terry, and...
Don't know.
Okay.
He's not going to come up and say, hey, do the match, or, I don't want to do a job for you.
Right.
I've been in different situations, too. And I'm not... Mike Awesome, Terry Funk, and Cactus Jack are fighting. Onita came out of retirement for this match. Onita Tanaka, and I forget who else was on their team. And now Terry Funk had been beating everybody. Onita's going to come out, and he was supposed to do the job for Onita that night. Nobody beating Terry there, and long time. And we were at Yokohama. It was a big show.
Right.
Great crowd. And Terry got into moonsaults. Because I used to look at him, what the hell are you doing, bro? You're 54 years old, and you're doing moonsaults. Not inside. He'd do them inside the ring, but this high spot was he did a moonsault from the top rope out to the floor.
Right.
Well, Mike and I forgot who else. It wasn't Onita. Was supposed to catch him. So he goes to do the moonsault, and they just get an arm on him, and wham, he hits the floor head first. He was out of it. Okay, he was like, he wasn't right. You could see that. And Onita was all pissed off. Told Gladdy, get in the ring, you job. Mike was so mad that night. I ain't supposed to do no damn job. So that was the story there. So Mike had to go in there. Onita 1, 2, 3'd him. Me, I instigated the hell out of it, you know. Damn, bro. It's like him do a job. You weren't even supposed to. Stop that shit done over the... I'm just asking how you feel about this, Mike.
Right.
I love to do the instigating things. We'd sit there and torment each other. What could I do to piss him off? I was like, yeah, this will work. Then you work at it until you get it done.
What are your memories working with Terry?
Wonderful. When we did our Funk Master gimmick, that was a great time in FMW history there. We had the Headhunters. We had Mike Awesome. We had myself. There was Terry. Victor Quinones was part of our crew. We had Oya, Horace Boulder.
Right.
And it was just, we had the combination of good wrestling, me with my crazy stuff, Terry with his vast years of All Japan and IWA and FMW and American style, cutting great interviews. The fans liked him. You know, he's his wrestling history. And us working together as a strong USA team that's not bowing down to the Japanese and we're going to kick all your asses. We had the strongest team going those days, so it was good angles.
It was good stuff, yeah, definitely.
We were in Corrigan Hall, which was always a hot spot. That was like our hotbed. It was like ECW's arena. It was small, but the fans who went there were the hardcore fans. They see excitement. They wanted to see fights. They wanted action. We had an 8-man that night with Hayabusa, Tanaka, and the top Japanese boys. Onita wasn't in it because, like I say, he only did like a big show occasionally. One of our spots was I used the superplex all the time over there. So I took one of the guys, superplex him off the top, boom, in the middle of the ring. Mike had that fantastic leaping ability. He comes from the other corner. Boom, hits him with this, like the awesome splasher, awesome bomber, like the snooker splash. Right. He hits him there. Now here comes one of the Headhunters. They're both over 400 pounds. Manny comes off the top rope. Boom, hits him with the big elbow. Now pictures up here. I used to call it the eclipse because he'd do that big moonsault because you wouldn't see the guy. He'd block out the lights. Wham, crushes him. The place is going insane. Boom, boom, boom. And we just roll out the way. And here the next guy comes. Hits him with that moonsault, rolls him up, 1, 2, and before you know that 99 could come down, boom, Hayabusa saved the place. Wow! Right. It was going insane. It was like the timing was just perfect, and we'd work high spots like that, which the crowd loved. It was truly exciting, but it was a rocking good time. Tag teaming with Terry is so easy, and we worked the styles and do our thing, and it was great.
What are your memories of Sabu? And I think the Sheik came over a couple times with him.
Sabu, yeah. And I was actually at Sabu's wedding. He married a Japanese girl.
Yep.
And FMW boys were over. Shane Douglas was there, Sabu, Tommy Dreamer.
Her name's Mino, I think, right? Mimo? She's a photographer now. I see her at all the shows. So.
Is she?
Yeah, she's awesome.
I forgot. The Dudleys were there.
Right.
Bubba and Devon. So we had, it was great having them there. And Sabu was there. It was pretty funny because we were in Corrigan Hall one time. Not one time, but we were there that evening. And me and him were tag teaming against, Japanese tag team champs at the time. Sabu and it was like new champions tonight.
Right.
So we're doing this thing, and Sabu comes flying over the corner. Wham, with the work. He hits me. It's like, okay, boom. Does it 2 times. He hits me in the match, and the fans go, oh. So he's working. I'm like, oh, okay, here comes the big tag. He comes over the corner of me. Boom. I let him have it. And then it was on. Then it was 3 against 1. And then he left the ring, and, I grabbed my nail brush, and then I I went after him, and he grabbed one of the young girls to protect him, and I, calmly like this, who cares? I went to hit her, and so he threw both of them out of the way, and then, go in the ring, and somebody schooled me 1, 2, 3, and then I go more insane, because I'm fighting with him and fighting with them,
right.
being myself. How can you beat me? You can't. They didn't care if I won or lost. Leather's really pissed now, so then I went up through a tirade through the crowd, so it was like the chaos of the night. It was good.
Did anybody ever say, "Oh, he wants to be like Tiger, Jet Singh, or Hanson, or Brody"?
Sabu?
No. As far as your gimmick when you came through the crowd and stuff like that.
Well, those are examples that you do use.
Right.
Okay. Bruiser Brody, like over there. I'd watch him when Abdullah the Butcher work. They brought the disorder to the ring. They fight outside the ring. They were outside the box of the mold at the time. So yeah, it can be done. What can I do that's different? Or right, Tiger, you have his sword and just do something. What did he do one time? He hit a girl or something. One of the ring girls or something, and then Anita came and, was crying over how could he hurt this poor innocent girl.
Right.
He's got to regain the honor, and that meant big thing, big angle, and it worked like that.
Was he hard to work with, Tiger?
Never worked with him.
Okay.
He was gone by the time that I was there. But it's as you said earlier, are you compared to Slaughter? Right? You're following his footsteps. What are you going to do that's different?
Right.
Every heel. What are you going to do that's different from the other heel? With the mask on, I was different in that sense. Style-wise and brutality-wise, I was different in the sense. A lot of things I would like. Brody used to, when he's coming out and making all this noise. So you feel like, you're yelling, over-exaggerate when I walk with the big steps and just, the movements, your characterizations. You do take things and you steal things from people, sure.
How did you wind up working for Victor Kirchner? Because I know he left FMW after a while, and he started up his own company over there, IWA. How did that come about?
Well, that was before I went to the FMW. Victor did call me.
Right.
My year was up, for band. And he had another guy that was doing, Ricky Peterson, who was doing the Leatherface gimmick. Because the character was overstrong, they wanted to keep it going. They handed the ball to him. I always considered myself, the original.
Right.
Okay. So everyone, you tag team with him. I didn't have any bad feelings towards him. I like him. He's a hell of a nice guy. He still is. So he calls me over for that. It was only a 10-day tour. Dick Slater was on, or not Dick Slater, but Dick Murdoch was on the tour. The two Leatherfaces were there. The Headhunters were there. Chael was there. A lot of the Spanish wrestlers.
Right.
He's from Puerto Rico. Used to come over there. And Victor, I always called Victor an opportunist pirate.
Huh.
If there was a way to make money,
definitely,
he plundered.
Right.
And he was good at it. He'd hustle. He'd good. He had things made in Mexico. I used to bring duffel bags full of stuff for Victor. It'd be masks. It would be clothes. It would be gym wear. He was smart, man. He liked to make money. Always got along with Victor very well, and Victor always took good care of me. So he calls me up and said, Mike, come on over. Will you do this for us? I'm over here. IWA Wing had folded by that time, and he was starting that up with a Japanese co-owner too. So comes the last night of the tour. We got a good show. I'm in a barbed wire deathmatch, the two Leatherfaces against Nakamaki?
Nakamaki?
Nakamaki
yeah.
And Ono?
I think so, yeah. Nakamaki and Oni.
Ono.
Yeah.
Okay, I have been out of Japan for a year, and they asked me to do a job, and I looked at them and said, what are you, insane? I said, you putting me in a death match, the two Leatherfaces against, it was barbed wires and nails, and, it was just, and I said, I ain't doing no job. Outright refused. So the Japanese owner, pissed, big time. Well, get as mad as he wants. I'm not doing it. So I worked too hard with this character to come back in this match, and my first death match back to lose. I looked at it as a business decision, not an ego decision. Ricky said he'll do it, and I said, well, you might want to do it, but I'm not doing it. So that was like something hell match. I mean, the Japanese title of the video.
Did you end up shooting on Ono in that match at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Both of them.
Right.
It wasn't so much a shoot, but I was very hard on them. You know, the moves were hard, solid. One thing, I put a barbed wire board on top of the guy and jumped on him.
Right.
And they were going insane over that. And then I put a nail and tore the other guy's ear. I broke that off and, you know, was beating him with that. And they were like, okay. Match, you know, finally ended like that. The place was a bloodbath. And I didn't go back to IWA Japan after that.
Right.
Let's say I was fired.
Huh.
So, but Victor stayed with IWA, and then I went to FMW, and then he decided that he was coming to FMW, and our friendship and business. He was my manager, you know, like when he was there.
Right.
But it was no hard feelings. It was like, well, you took it too far this time in there. It's like the owner pissed off, man. It's like, well, hey, I was just talking my character. I say that's Leather. That Leather does that kind of shit.
What are your memories of Hayabusa?
Wonderful, good worker. Worked very hard, you know. He was bringing the lucha libre, the Japanese style, the high flying, you know, his moonsaults and the way he could move. Very exciting. The fans loved him, and when you worked with him, it was you had that talent. The kid could really wrestle and excite you, and it was just horrible that, you know, a move that he had done 1,000 times paralyzed him.
Right.
But as far as work ethic and working with him and the company, it was outstanding to have him up as one of the, you know, the top guys there.
What about Gato and Jado?
Jado,
yeah.
Cool. I
Good
wrestled
guys.
them a ton of times. They're fun to work with. They both understood American style and Japanese style.
Right.
So we would mix it up and, you know, we'd throw a little comedy in there. We'd throw some good high spots in there. Professional, nice guys, could always count on them, worked hard. You can't say nothing bad about those two.
Now, did anybody from WCW or WWF ever try to bring you in with the Leatherface gimmick at all?
Terry had talked to me when I was in FMW saying, well, you should try talking to Vince or something like this. And he kept dropping the name Chainsaw Charlie. Yeah, you could be Chainsaw Charlie, you know, come over and do this or something like that. And I thought the liability issues, you know, you make a fan fall out of his seat, you're coming out with a chainsaw. I said, I can't work this gimmick in this state. You know, the lawsuits and the lines would coming out with a saw. I said, it's not going to work. So I kind of blew it up. But then I see him a few months later, when I see cutting through a box.
Did you get mad at all?
I laughed.
All right.
I saw Chainsaw Charlie. Ain't this some shit? I took it more good humor. It's like, well, good for him.
Right.
If I do something, I want it to work right. I want it to be something. I want to go full bore on it. Have, how you might say, artistic expression, not limited. Which brings me to another good story. Well, like I said, the beginning of our interview is I'm not dead yet, which was good. But, you know, people have contacted me, such as yourself, will do this interview and a signing, you know, for wrestling fans. And promoter in Philadelphia called me and said, will you work the ECW arena? And I said, man, it's a place that I've never worked before. You know, there's just a good vibe in that building because all the hardcore stuff that went down in Super Leather hasn't worked the States. So I said, I wanted to finish it out. I hadn't been in the ring in 7 years. That would be a great building to do it in. I said, well, who's my opponent? They said, well, we don't know yet. I said, well, get back with me and I'll you know. They said, Raven. I said, hey, great. You know, that was his building too. He'd been there, you know, for years with Paulie and great things that went down in there, and he liked the crazy stuff too. So I went there. And then when I got there, things had changed drastically. Okay, no body fluids, no spitting. Keep this inside the ring. You can't go over the wall.
They got strict.
Don't break anything. Don't do this. Don't do this. And I said, do you realize who you got here? You got a bull in a china shop.
Right.
And you're telling me not to break anything? I'm saying, hey, do you have What can we use for it? Oh, you can't use this. This is not. And I'm just getting a list of everything I can't do.
Yeah, the commission in Philly is horrible.
Okay. And then I'm looking at the clock. 8 o'clock rolls by. 9 o'clock rolls by. 9:30 is rolling by. I'm looking for one. I said, do you have a replacement for Raven tonight? And then this guy who walks through the door, forget about every bad thing I just said about him.
Yeah, exactly.
So he gets his stuff on, and we go there, and then I got, what are we going to do? You know, it was more, wasn't the intensity that I wanted.
Right.
From him. You know, okay, here, let's just do a match, and I wanted Super Leather to go out with a bang. I wanted that fire. I wanted the hardcore. I wanted that feel. And I just thought about it. He says, okay, I'll go out first and do my talking on the mic, you know, to the fans. And, excuse me, doing things like, well, I ain't scared of no monsters. And I'm not scared of Leatherface. And, you know, then they come out and they start charging the ring. I am scared of Leatherface. And he had like a manager with him that night.
Right.
Who worked the angle good, the referee too, and the photographer, and just old Leather kicked in. It was like, no, you're gonna pull your stuff off. You know, I go by a fan, he got a brand new beer. I'm like this, and I start drinking it. And when he hits me with a barbed wire bat in the back, and boom, I spit beer all over the place. And when I turn around, he hits me with a kick, and boom, I go over the guardrail, and they're just like, oh my God, no. So I'm spitting already.
Right.
I've gone over the rail, worked myself back into the crowd. I grabbed my nail brush. Okay, here's the last match. We were the main that night. Here's a girl sitting there. Here's the ring announcer sitting there. Here's the doctor, and here's the, you know, the commissioner, and they're like looking at me, and it's like, oh, just another wrestler, right? I took the nail brush and I ring it like this, and they look at me, what the hell are you doing? And went whoom, and the table like disintegrated, broke in half, and exploded.
Nice.
The girl's pissing her pants, and oh my God, the doctor's falling over backwards in there,
awesome.
And that put the shock value right there. I said, all right, you still got the touch. And, you know, we just gimmicked it, worked the match back and forth. And after that, it was fairly uneventful, but it was a good match. I mean, not uneventful. I wish more people had been there. Ticket prices were pretty high that night, so it made it a bit hard. But it was fun. It was a good time just getting back in the ring after 7 years when I never thought I'd do it again.
You worked a couple shows down in Florida for Paul Heyman and ECW. What are your memories of working with Rhino down there?
That was a great match. You know, that's the type of thing that I expected. It was fun. It was Cocoa Beach. The whole ECW crew was there, and you know, they announced me from FMW Japan, and working with Rhino, good, tough kid, fun to work with, was game for anything, and you know, he put me over like $1 million. I did a brain buster on him, and it was wonderful.
You did the next night too, I think, right?
I went to do the next night. Probably, oh yeah, show up in Orlando, and it was like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Well, we don't know. I said, then why do you ask me to come here? I didn't have any bad things to say to him, but I just took it as like professional diss. It was like, if you want me to work, ask me to come work. You don't want me to work, tell me no. But don't drag me along like, hey, can I work now? Can I work? I've been doing this too long to be, come on. Well, nobody showed up. Okay, here's your shot. I didn't need a shot. I wasn't looking for that.
Right.
The night before, working with Rhino, great. He had tremendous talent there that I could work with, that I wanted to work with. But
you would have been perfect in ECW too. So.
Paulie is Paulie. I tried talking to him 3 times because I did want to go to ECW. I said, Paulie, you know, I'd like to come here. Yeah, we'd love to have you. You know, Taz was working time. Taz, this is, you know, Leather or Corporal, and you know, he'd be a good guy for. But you can't ever get back with him.
Yeah.
I'll call you. 1 year goes by, 2 years go by. I'm not going to keep begging for a job.
Right.
You know what I do. We change talent, so you know, it was unfortunate because I think I would have had a good time. Last night I was sitting at the bar and Spike Dudley was there.
Oh yeah.
And I said, you don't remember me, do you? He looked at me. Yeah, I remember you. I said, it's wrong how you did me. Because he was the giant killer. After the match with Rhino, you know, he comes in and gets on the top rope and hits me with the DDT, 1, 2, 3, and runs out of the ring, you know, like that. After I, you know, had that match with Rhino, I said, I still haven't got over what you've done to me after. And he thought I was serious. I said, this just wasn't right, Spike. Wasn't right. You doing just like, yeah, it's Paulie, man. You know, I was supposed to be the giant killer.
Right.
Kid, man, settle down. You know,
that's awesome.
So it was great seeing him again last evening, and you know, talking with the guys, and you know, some of the other wrestlers there.
Were you surprised going back to FMW that I guess Onita came back out of retirement, and do you think he should have stayed there?
It's not. That's the thing in Japan. Okay, here's your big retirement ceremony, but then it comes down to a business decision where the business is bad. Maybe if I come, you know, we'll make money on this show and things will be fine. How many times can you retire in wrestling? Very few wrestlers retire and stay retired. Money talks. I didn't have that much contact with him. He was there, he was around, but he wasn't one of the boys like he was pre-90s, you know, early 90s, when every night he'd be in the main event and doing the hardcore stuff. After he decided in 94, you know, to get out of it, it was just sporadic. When he got in there, he was Onita. His name value alone was, you know, worth it. Oh, Onita's coming back. But the fans realized that too. He wasn't the same Onita. Japanese wrestling fans were very smart.
When you went back, you actually teamed up with Chris Romero, I believe, right? Chris Romero was his name?
Mark Starr's brother?
I think so.
Chris.
I don't know his last name.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I know it was Mark Starr's brother. Yoshi Kwan, he was going as.
Chris Champion? That's who he worked when he was in WCW too.
Yeah, Chris Champion. Okay. Exactly. And you know, different gimmick. Right. He did a tour with us over there.
Okay.
I was working against him, and he wasn't real happy with me.
Why is that?
Because first time out, right, we're working, he took a chair and he said, oh, I'm going to go hardcore with him. Nailed me really good. So I got my own chair, wore his ass out, put him in the ring, and stomped a mud hole in his ass. Not literally, but, you know, just a hard wrestling match.
Right.
Right, and then I get him to the thing I used to like to do is a standing suplex. I'd sit there and hold you up there for a minute, too. And Leather put me down. Boom. I gave him a big suplex after that. He said, next time I come back here, I'm going to train. I'm going to get my size back, and I'm going to whoop your ass. I'm saying, well, maybe next time.
Right. Who were certain guys that you liked working with as far as doing the death matches with? I mean, was there a special art as far as working those matches?
Absolutely.
Was there guys that said, oh, I could do hardcore, and you got in the ring with, and they were way too stiff and had no clue what they were doing?
Nakamaki was a perfect example. He's crazy enough to do it, has the heart to do it, doesn't have the talent to do it. Wanted to go out there and do the hardcore stuff or do a good blade job, but his timing and technique was off or not right. You can have the heart, oh, I can do this, I can do anything. Can you take a bump like this? Can you work it? Can you sell it? The timing is essential in those type of matches. And when you're using weapons like that, which I've made a mistake, okay, I'm going to hit you with the nail brush. Keep your arms down by your side. You're going to take a gut shot. It's going to leave 20 holes in your stomach. You know, red dots, you know, my 16th, I dull the, the top of the nails. I'm working with a young kid. He's in there. I go swing down like this, and he panics, and he pulls his arm across like that. I put a nail, 16-inch spike nail, right through his bicep.
Oh.
My tag team partner was looking at me going, oh, God. And I just took it, threw him, and yanked it out of his arm.
Right.
You know, go inside. Sorry.
What was the worst thing? Was that one of the worst things that you've ever done?
Well, yeah. You know, that nail literally went through his arm. And he was okay after that, but it went through his bicep. Just the wear and tear, I would say. Like Masanaga one night, he comes out, Mr. Danger. I had the saw, when I turn around, I pull it like this. It was turned off, but the blade whoosh, cut in his forehead, and he was gushing blood like in the first seconds of the match. I mean, the fans were eating it up, but it literally looked like I saw it into his forehead. Going through the tables every night towards, the end of my career there in FMW. Ribs were cracking, was slower. My right ankle was gone by then, just giving out. You can only get in a car wreck so many times. You start to realize your mortality. It's like, hey, you're not as indestructible as you thought you were. Your knees. And I was working Mike one night, and he did a slide out that he normally usually does, broke his ankle. But I carried him for 16 minutes in the match. I worked his leg the whole time. Hit it with the chair. Oh, he's screaming like this and that, It set him up for a big table shot in the middle. He worked his leg the whole time. I'm going to finish him. And then he gets a reversal on me, brings me through the table. 1, 2, 3. Place goes nuts. And they carry him out of there. But,
How involved was the Japanese, in Japanese wrestling, were the Yakuza?
Well, it's like saying every Italian's a gangster.
Right.
Okay?
Just a myth.
Right.
Okay.
It's a basic myth. The Japanese, it's more like a business sense. Some guys have money. It's like, he's mafia, like, because he's got his hair cut like that, and he's Italian, or why he's mafia, because he dresses up and wants to act a little hard, or, he might have a drinking bar or something.
Right.
There ain't no Soprano stories over there. You're not finding bodies anywhere. It's more mythological. It's like, gangster. Oh, no, don't,
Right.
like that.
What did you hear about when the president of FMW actually hung himself?
I just found out about that recently. Mr. Arai was a very nice man. Good guy. Always very pleasant. It made me sad now, and I was shocked because he was always there. He's the one who paid us all the time. He was the office. He didn't speak very much English, but he was a very pleasant Japanese gentleman with great business, skills and standards, high ethics, respected us, treated us well. And I think when FMW lost money in the Japanese wrestling, pretty much hit bottom now.
Right.
It goes back to traditional old school pride, when they did the Harry Carey. Right. It was like, that was the honorable way out for him.
Are you surprised at Mick Foley's success?
Not at all.
You knew he was going to make it?
He's another unique character. He's worked with Victor too. I remember one time in ECW, I was at Fort Lauderdale, at the War Memorial there, talking to him, and he was going to do his first tour of Japan. And I said, I've been doing merchandising over there also. I said, Mick, man, he said, you're going to go over there. I said, you got a great gimmick. You got the Cactus Jack. You're doing, the hardcore stuff. You're going to go there. I said, have merchandise and stuff ready. And I talked to him about that when he came over. He had T-shirts made. You'd go out there and take pictures with him. And he'd make more merchandising than you would on your payday. He was always well-spoken, nice guy, and smart. He took advantage of that situation. Like when the first time Vinny called him, you look at him, right, he's not Mr. Muscles or Body Donna. He'd do some crazy stuff. Okay, he had that mind to think outside the box. Bang, bang, or nobody, what's he going to do when he came off the top of that cage, through that table or through the cages? And it's taken a toll on his body, but then he was smart enough to write his, memoirs down. And say, what, this would be a great idea. Instead of thinking about it, he did something. One thing I always tell a lot of people, I said, there's 3 types of people in this world. You make things happen, you watch what happened, or you wonder what happened. If you're watching and wondering, you're not making it.
True.
Someone else is. And he made things happen.
What led you to retire?
I was getting, like I spoke to you a second ago, I was starting to break down.
Right.
I was coming out of the matches hurt. After 10 years in Japan doing the hardcore, the suplexes through the tables, your body, you start aging. I was 42 years old, and I realistically look at it. Can I fight with the young guys right now? Can I go toe-to-toe like I used to? I get in the ring with King Kong Bundy. I know he's going to hit me hard. I said, can I get in the ring with a Brock Lesnar and give him a run for his money? They're big, powerful, different style, go heads up like that and do it every night. And I honestly said no. I was talking to Terry one time, and he was talking about Stan Hansen. He said, yeah, Stan Hansen always said after 40 years old, get your ass out of this business. And he was laughing at him because, yeah, Stan's over 40 and he's still over at All Japan. And we were laughing about it. He said, me too. And like talking about Harley and Fritz von Erich, you know, the guys who had stayed in longer. And
Look at Flair, he's still on top.
right.
Huh.
But what we were discussing is you're not the wrestler that you were. You're hanging on to your past. You're living on your name. You truly aren't. Granted, our belts are given to us because you're champion and it's a business issue, but you truly deserve the belt that they give you. When you know that there's talent out there that's can work circles around you, that should be the true champion. So it was based on that. I came home, looked at my wife. I didn't have any problems over there that tour, and I said, that was my last tour. I said, that's it.
Were you ever offered to come back?
Nope, they never contacted me then.
Would you ever?
I have been offered, you know, whether you want to come over for this, but the Japanese pro wrestling businesses, everybody's divided. So it's like divide and conquer. It's, yeah, you got two top guys from this company, two top guys from this company, one guy from here. Everybody wants to start their own business, and it's not drawing. They've killed themselves.
Last year, WWE.com printed a story that you had passed away. How did you find out about it?
My mother called me. She said, Michael, you all right? Yeah. Why? Because they're reporting that you're dead. I said, Mom, I'm not dead.
Right. Did you have to call the office and tell them, or?
It upset her way more than it upset me. Because I say, look, for 7 years I have done nothing. When I told you I retired, I never contacted anybody again. I never did an independent show in the States. I hadn't done anything. I just went about, you know, being normal again. And all of a sudden that I'm dead, and I died of natural causes in Maryland when I lived in North Carolina. I thought, you know.
Who started the rumor?
Have no idea. I never really said, wow, how can you do this to me? So Greg Oliver up in Canada, he does like a talk show. He said, you know, this is me. I verified things that I've done. So I'm not dead. I don't know how this got started. And the people like, are you upset about it? And I said, no, I'm happy. I'm alive. Why would I be upset about it? So it's actually led to a lot of good things. We've been trying to contact you for years. Are you interested, in wrestling again? Do you want to do conventions, or do you want to do Legends of the Ring stuff? And I've taken it up on, a few offers, and it's been a tremendous opportunity. It's nice to know that people appreciated what you do, because your ego, in this business after years, you're only somebody because people appreciate what you do.
Any regrets looking back?
Like back in my WWF days, I wish I would have moderation. I wish I'd been a bit more moderate and not as extreme. I always found the hard time one way or the other. You go all the way and then some, or just, that moderate, be it with alcohol or drug use or just hard living. But it's been fantastic. It's taken me around the world numerous times. I've got to meet so many people and go so many places and do so many things, and getting paid to do what you love is a wonderful thing. It's not many people have a job that they love doing and look forward to doing it year after year after year after year. I regret that I can't do it longer, because I can't find another job like I've had over, the last 20 years of traveling the world, kicking ass, partying, having fun, and making really good money doing it. It's I see people, and they sit there at the computer every day, and they're going to do it the next day, the next day, the next day, the next day, the year after year after year, just to look for 2 weeks off to go somewhere. I'm like, being normal is very hard for me.
Huh. Fondest memories?
The people that I've met and were lucky enough to spend time with, from the Terry Funks and the Mike Awesomes, the Hulk Hogans, the Vince McMahons, the fans. It's working Harley in Kemper Arena, there's sometimes you'll just sit there and drive by a place and smile and say, I remember that night and it was great. And it's having the opportunity to entertain people and
No, it's going down. I got 1 minute left, so.
entertain people and them appreciating and remembering what I did and liked my work. I think it was great.
Well, I'd like to thank you for being here today. It was a great interview, and I hope you had fun and enjoyed doing it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And for all you fans out there, the Corp is still alive and well.
Thank you.